Now, let's move over to the Free State. The Free State government believes it will overspend its budget by 500 million rand by March next year. The Finance MEC tabled the province's budget adjustments recently. There are also plans to underspend on capital projects. Our reporter, Moloko Moloto, is covering this story and he joins us now live. Moloko, it's no surprise that you have a province saying that it needs more money, but what's shocking is that service delivery is a major problem in the Free State, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Heidi. Indeed, just recently, the MEC for Finance in the Free State, MEC Kadija Brown, tabled a 42 billion rand adjustment budget in the provincial legislature for the province of the Free State. She now joins us to take that discussion forward. MEC, thank you so much for making time. You do say that as the Executive Council, led by Premier Sisi Ntombela, you have agreed that you need to massively invest in the public infrastructures to an extent that there ought to be construction in almost every corner of the province. But how are you going to achieve this when at the same time as the province you are spending less or underspending when it comes to the grants that are meant to develop infrastructure? I mean, for halfway into the financial year, you have spent less than half. How are you going to achieve that?
Thank you very much, and good day to the viewers. Yes, we have looked at the challenges that we have received. Over the past year, we've made some dramatic changes to departments, head of departments, shuffling CFOs. The Premier had made that concise decision to deal with the governance aspect of the province. And we've also employed, through National Treasury and a National Treasury grant, an infrastructure team within Provincial Treasury that looks at the IDMS model, which means we look at the planning, we look at the time frame of the infrastructure projects, we look at the overruns, the extension and variation orders of those projects, and we assess and analyze them in terms of the leakages, if projects are complete on time, within budget, if it's within the BOQs and within the tender specifications. So we've got a technical team that also helps with the internal auditing of such projects going forward.
But what have been the impediments? Why have you not been able to optimally spend these capital grants?
If I look at the root cause analysis that we've done recently with this team that I'm referring to, it's largely older projects over 7 years. So in terms of a medium-term expenditure framework, a project doesn't happen over a year. It happens over a 3-year term. And given that perspective, we do have quite a few projects in terms of it being under sub judice. Some of them have gone through a litigation process, either contractors haven't completed on time, or there had been irregularities in terms of the contracts, or alternatively, we're looking at some of these contractors that have been recently blacklisted across other projects within the country. So those were some of the challenges, and largely for us to go on tender on time to ensure that these projects are then completed.
And failure to go on tender has much to do with your inability as the province, of course, to award those contracts. But your inability to spend optimally this grants, basically, practically, it means that the residents of the Free State should not expect roads, water infrastructure, and even houses that they have been promised, because you as the province are unable to spend money that's been allocated to you, right?
Well, so housing is a different matter, because there are 3 different basic programs with housing: subsidized housing, your title deeds, and then the bulk services and land aspect that we are working on. And we've just appointed a new head of department there, and I understand that that team has worked on a strategy to fast-track the housing matter. In terms of police, roads and transport, historically, these are some of those contracts that are at litigation level at this stage. We have gone out to advertise. They are to be awarded. Okay. Yes, in terms of the roads, there are still challenges. We've got a 1.4 billion rand road maintenance budget. Yeah. The province, through the adjustment budget, has topped that up as well from an equitable share perspective. So we trust that with the strength and the budgetary support that we're giving that department, that they would absolutely fast-track that road infrastructure, and it is critical for the province.
Fair enough.
Absolutely.
Fair enough. While on the one hand, you are unable to spend optimally on this money that's been allocated to develop infrastructure, on the other hand, though, as the province, for this financial year that's ending in March next year, you are projecting to overspend by R500 million and largely on the compensation of employees. How then do you explain this imbalance where people are being paid but they are unable to deliver on the basics?
We raised it with the executive. We sat down with the relevant departments. As Treasury, we were able to project this. We analysed it and projected. We're having those critical conversations with the relevant departments. And we have actually, as a province, through the Premier, decided that we will not do any other appointments without the signature of the Premier and without it coming through to Treasury and understanding the full parcel conditions of the province. So we know that our COE budget is X. If it goes beyond that, there is a possibility that we could look at attrition rates within departments, and we are trying not to appoint from outside of the province and outside. We look at internal promotions and reskilling. So there are, if I may just say, there are action plans in place to address it. So we are telling the public that we are projecting to spend, but we're also telling the public that we have control measures in place to ensure that we reduce that projection.
All right, I'm afraid we don't have much time. This is my final question on the issues of finances, the state of finances in municipalities. I mean, municipalities such as Masilunyana, Kopanong, I also think Mafube as well, have consistently been unable to pay salaries for employees. And I think in the case of Mafube, they are dead. They owe creditors and other people to a tune of about 800 million rand, and their annual budget in that tiny municipality is about 200 million rand. Surely they are never going to be able to pay that debt. How, as the provincial treasury, seeing that you have the responsibility to oversee the finances, how are you going to assist municipalities such as this one to ensure that the people get value for money?
No, absolutely, and it is a challenge across the country. Over 168 municipalities across the country have challenges on financial health. We have specifically we've dealt with Treasury officials sitting with those municipalities, dealing with their budgets and trying to look at some processes in ring fencing the salaries. Traditionally, there was cross-subsidization between conditional grants and equitable share, and that has become a large irregular matter, which we've identified, and we've got teams that are looking at it, and to the point that we'd like to affect municipalities to the same level of governance as the Free State. We've got 4 clean audits in the province this year as Free State provincial government. Treasury Copter, fleet management, and the consolidated financials talks about the housing fund. We've got no disclaimers and no adverse, 5 improvements and unqualified audits. So we trust that we would like that over the next 18 to 26 months to do the same in local government. Thank you so much.
We wish you all the best. Well, MEC Kadija Brown, the MEC for Finance in the Free State Province. That's all we had time for, and we thank her for hers.